Hello and welcome to all our viewers on CFO Insights. I am Sherry, a financial technology consultant at Hyperbots. Today, we are discussing the critical role of various types of addresses in invoices and purchase orders with Ayo Fashina, an accomplished finance leader with a diverse background spanning corporate finance, operations, and strategic advisory across multiple industries and regions. We'll explore the importance of these addresses, the challenges involved, and how AI can help in addressing these issues. Thank you so much for joining us today, Ayo. To start, could you outline the different types of addresses that typically appear on invoices and purchase orders and why each one is important?
Certainly. So the key addresses we deal with generally include the vendor's address, the company's address, the ship to and from addresses, the remit-to address for the payments, the billing address, or the legal address for the company itself. And sometimes you have a registered office that's different from all those addresses that I've talked about before. Each of these addresses serve a very distinct purpose that has to be dealt with carefully when you're dealing with invoices.
And which of these addresses that you just mentioned are critical to match during invoice processing, and why is it important?
Of those addresses I've mentioned, the vendor and company addresses are used for the legal correspondences. So when you want to send emails, messages, letters, you have to use the right address for the vendor as well as the company. The ship from and to addresses are critical for logistics because essentially that's where the goods are going from and to, and when the goods will be received at. The remit-to address ensures that payments are sent to the correct location. Now, if it's a payment that's the old way, paper checks, or even if it's a wire transfer, usually they ask for the address of the person you're sending the wire to or the company you're sending the wire to. So that's important. The billing address is where the invoice should be sent for processing. So if the billing address is wrong, then the invoice might go to the wrong place and delay the whole processing of the invoices. All of these addresses ensure that transactions are accurate and that goods, services, and payments reach the right destination for processing.
And to touch upon some obstacles, what are some common challenges companies face when dealing with multiple addresses on invoices and POs?
So one of the biggest challenge is inconsistencies between documents. For example, the shipping address on an invoice might differ from the one on the PO due to a typo or outdated information. They may have updated one document, but not the other document. Additionally, managing international addresses can be complex because you're used to the addresses that you deal with in your local markets. But if you see international address, they may have other items that you're not used to or familiar with. Due to varying formats and standards, it's something that you have to delicately deal with. Otherwise, the invoice will come back as unable to match. So manual data entry errors can also happen, and vendors changing their addresses without timely updates to the company can also cause significant issues, which leads to delay, mismatches, and even fraud.
And how do these address discrepancies that we just talked about impact financial operations and what risks do they impose?
The discrepancies that we just mentioned can disrupt the supply chain. They can cause delays in deliveries, they can cause delays in payments. For example, if goods are shipped to the wrong address or wrong location, then essentially there's no good received note because the goods didn't go to the right place. It could result in additional costs and delays because additional costs to move the goods from the wrong address to the right address, or even the goods may be completely lost if you went to the wrong address. And then the delay, the time between when you get it to the wrong place and moving it back to the right place. On the financial side, a mismatch on the remit address can lead to payments being sent to the wrong entity. It can increase the risk of fraud, and all these errors can also trigger compliance issues within the company or even the vendor side, especially when you're dealing with international shipments and taxes, because it can now come back and say, oh, maybe you're trying to avoid taxes or custom duty. That's why you're making the mistake on purpose.
And since AI is rapidly transforming the finance industry, I have to ask, given these challenges, what role can AI play in improving the handling of addresses in financial transactions?
So I would say AI could be a game changer. because it can standardize, it can normalize the address formats across the different documents. It can reduce inconsistencies. It can even predict, to an extent, what somebody's trying to write, even with a typo. As you can see, when you're typing now, AI can correct your spelling and change things to what AI thinks you meant. Of course, there are issues with that as well. We'll leave that alone. AI can also validate the address by cross-referencing them with external databases because they can access the internet and they can check. They can ensure that they're accurate, they're up to date, and they can automatically update it based on whatever databases you've programmed into the AI to check and update from. Additionally, AI can intelligently match addresses on different documents, even when there are slight differences and slight variations, which is what I was talking about before. It may be slightly different, but AI can tell that that's what you're trying to, or that's what you mean, and flag any discrepancies that may indicate fraud or errors. So AI could be programmed and taught in order to figure out and detect errors and fraud. This helps streamline the whole process and significantly reduce the risk of mistakes, fraud, and delays in the processing of these invoices. So I think AI could be very useful.
And from your vast experience in the industry, can you give us an example of how AI might handle a specific address-related issue, such as a change in the vendor's remit-to address?
So if a vendor changes the remit-to address on an invoice, AI can detect this change by comparing it to the previous data in the system. It can also alert the accounts payables team to verify and change the data before processing the payment. So you can say, oh, there's a different remit-to address. Could you confirm? AI can flag it. This not only prevents potential fraud, but it also ensures that the payment itself is sent to the right address. AI could also be used to automate the update of this information across all relevant documents. So once you tell AI that, yes, this is the new address now, then the AI could actually update through all the relevant documents in the system and maintaining consistency across the platform. This helps in processing subsequent invoices and ensures there are no delays, fraud, or mistakes going forward.
How does AI help in managing international addresses, which often vary in format and standards?
So AI can be trained to recognize and adapt to different addresses in different formats by leveraging the global database. Because AI can access the database very quickly than a human being can. If a human being is trying to search, he has to go on Google, look, oh, what's the address format in Ireland? Maybe the person is sitting in the US. AI can do that in less than a second. And the machine learning algorithms can be trained on various address structures. So they already understand various structures to start with. It can also learn as it processes invoices for that company that's coming from various jurisdictions. It can convert this into standardized formats that is consistent with the company's internal system, ensuring that accurate processing of the invoices are done. So AI's ability to handle this variation reduces the risk of errors, like we were discussing before, especially in cross-border transactions, when accuracy is critical for compliance and logistics, and to make sure that goods are delivered to the right place, and then funds are delivered to the right place as well, and whatever duty or taxes is due are also assessed correctly.
Finally, what advice would you give to companies or our viewers looking to enhance their address handling processes in invoices and POs?
My advice would be to invest in an AI-driven solution that can automate and standardize the address handling of your invoice processing. Now, you can start by cleaning and maintaining a robust database of vendor and company addresses. That's step one. Then you can now put the AI tools on top of this to monitor and validate these addresses continuously. It is also important to ensure that all relevant stakeholders, such as the procurement team, the accounts payables, are all aligned on the importance of accurate addresses and how to manage this. This proactive approach, in my opinion, can save time, it can reduce errors, it can mitigate risks across the entire transaction life cycle, it can prevent fraud, and it will make everybody's life easier. Because when invoices are not processed on time, the vendors get agitated. When goods are not received on time, it could delay your processes, internal processes of the company. So making sure that everything works according to how it's supposed to be It's important, which is why if you use AI to manage all these things, it could do it in milliseconds, as opposed to a team that would take maybe days to figure out and reconcile all these.
Thank you so much, Ayo, for sharing your insights on such a crucial topic. It's clear from this conversation that accurate address management supported by AI is essential for smooth financial operations.